Hello, everybody, and welcome to another section of my first impressions of Strixhaven. In this video, I'm going to be looking at the uncommons for the very first time and giving my thoughts on them. I already made a video where I looked at the commons for the first time, and so I'm going to be looking at the higher rarities now. It's always fun to look at the new cards, see what they are up to, and talk about them. Before I dive in, though, I do want to remind you that if you enjoyed this video, be sure to hit that thumbs up button, subscribe to the channel, and leave a comment with your questions, thoughts, and feedback. If you want to interact and ask your questions live, check out the Twitch stream, twitch.tv/NicolaiBolas. And if you want something a little more structured, where I grade all the cards, head on over to the Patreon, where I have my I will be making my card-by-card grade spreadsheet for Call Time. So after I've gone through my first impressions of the cards, I'll put them into my grade spreadsheet with all of my grades and that sort of thing. So if you are in for that more kind of structured thing, check out the Patreon. You can support my content and get access to bonus stuff at the same time. But yeah, we're going to be diving on in and starting things off with the white cards. I think there's 80 uncommons, 80 cards, yeah. So lots of stuff. And we have Twitch chat joining us here. Okay. But yeah, we've got all the Twitch chat here to help us out if I have any rules, things that I don't understand, or things of that nature. But it's going to be a lot of fun. Okay, starting things off, Clever Luminomancer. There's been a lot of discussion for this card in Constructed. There's some infinite combos where you can kill them on turn 2, I think. It's a 1 mana 0/1. When you cast an instant or sorcery, it gets +2/+2 until end of turn. Generally not a great limited card. You might be thinking, wow, it's just going to be supersized. But the problem is you can't consistently trigger this. And so a lot of the times it's going to be a 0/1. So it's like one of the cool things about this sort of card is if it has like even 1 power, you attack your opponent. And then if they decide to block it, you can like pump it up with your instance and like eat their creature. But with this one, you can just like, you attack them for 0, they don't block it, you don't have anything, and all of a sudden you just did 0 damage to them. You don't have the threat of eating their creatures or anything. And it's pretty miserable on blocks, because if you like tap out on your turn, you just can't block things. So I'm not a huge fan of it in Limited. Next, Detention Vortex. Enchant an online permanent. So this could be an enchantment removal spell. I think this is like the first enchantment I've seen in the entire set, which is kind of wild. Can't attack or block. Activated abilities can't be activated. Nice. Destroy the Vortex. Oh no. Only your opponents may activate this ability and only the sorcery. This card is horrible. Jeez Louise. Only 3 mana? Yeah, this card is not good. It can get rid of a creature for a turn because they have to use it at sorcery speed. But this seems really bad to me. Like, real bad. Because 3 mana is not a lot of mana. So, like, you cast this, next turn they untap, destroy Detention Vortex, and you are down a card. Sure, you can attack them, but yeah, not great at all. No. It does have to be activated sorcery, so keep that in mind that they can't just immediately get rid of it. So it's like a tap 1 creature for a turn almost. But yeah, not great. Dueling Coach. Enter the battlefield, put a counter on target creature. Nice, so it's a 4 mana 3/3 baseline. Put a counter on each creature you control with a counter on it. It depends on how wide you're going. There are some things with counters, and that's a pretty nice effect for 5 mana if you can buff up all of the cards. But still, generally, I don't think it's going to be a super high pick. Just 4 mana 3/3 is just a kind of clunky size, and 5 mana to activate is so much. And if you're only putting like 2 counters, like 5 mana to put 2 counters on something is pretty inefficient. It is nice to have the mana sync option, but it's undercosted on its baseline, so not my favorite card. Professor of Symbology. Enters the battlefield, learn. This is a good learn card because this is just like a reasonable body. 2 mana 2/1 doesn't need that much to be good. And then you can get you just basically 2 mana 2/1 draw a card and draws a spell, and you can like, it actually plays pretty well with the token one, like the 3 mana make a 3/2 card. It helps you curve into that. The white-red hybrid common. It also does actually decently with the one that puts 2 counters on a creature. And even just rummaging is pretty reasonable. Like we've seen the in red, the Fisher Wizard from Zendikar Rising, and the, oh my gosh, what's it called? It was literally a card in Call Time, the 2/1 that could discard a card when it enters the battlefield, you draw a card. And this is its worst case, is you can play it as an Immersturm Raider. There we go, I remember the name, don't worry, chat. But yeah, at its worst case, it's an Immersturm Raider, and at its best case, it's like a 2 mana 2/1 draw a card, so pretty good. I like Professor of Symbology. Reduce to memory, exile target non-land permanent. His controller creates a 3/2 red and white spirit creature token. It's a lesson. So you can exile your own things, or you can exile their things and give them a 3/2. Giving them a 3/2 is a major downside. This is like Raven form on steroids when it comes to giving them stuff. It's like, I am going to give you something massive. Does kill anything. And you can't even protect your creatures from removal. Oh my gosh, you're right. Ouch. You can protect things from enchantment removal, but we haven't seen any enchantment removal. This is the only enchantment removal we've seen so far. Detention Vortex. I was actively looking for it yesterday when I saw the green common that can destroy an artifact or a creature with flying. Reduced to memory seems really bad. I don't think you're going to want to play this card. And it exiles, so you don't even get death triggers on your cards. So like if you had that like 1-mana frog creature from yesterday, like in black, you can't even like destroy that to get a 3/2 because it exiles it. Yeah, not a huge fan. You and target opponent each draw 3 cards. Well, this is another horrific card. It's kind of cute with Narset and Constructed, but you don't really get to do much with this because you have to spend the card and then your opponent draws 3 cards and you they get to use the cards first, presumably, because you have to spend the mana, so you have like less mana around to use it. The only time when this would be good is if you're playing like Commander, so you can like give your ally 3 cards and yourself 3 cards. So in Commander, it actually is a pretty cool card, I think. Yeah. Secret Rendezvous, pretty neat for a Commander, but not really playable in Limited at all. Show of Confidence. When you cast a spell, copy it for each other instant and sorcery spell you've cast this turn. It's Storm! They're bringing back Storm! How good is it going to be? Put a counter on target creature, gains Vigilance. So, and it's only Storm for instants and sorcery. So, this card's not... White's uncommons have been bad. Really bad. Like, this card's good. This card is okay. No, this is only target opponent, so it doesn't work in Two-Headed Giant. But this card's also not great. Like, ew. No, I don't think they're opponents in Two-Headed Giant. I think they're allies. Show of Confidence does not seem good to me either. You have to put like 3 counters for it to be worth it. It is an instant, so you can like combine it with other combat tricks maybe. But still, this is not great. Hey, don't be negative before we've even seen the set, Gamalama. White had some decent cards in the commons, I guess. Maybe. Actually, its commons were kind of junky. It had the one really good one, the 4-drop that I liked. But yeah, Show of Confidence, not great. You have to put like 3 counters before it's like above rate, and there's going to be games where it only puts 1 counter a lot of the time. It's hard to like combine this with other instants because your decks just don't have as many instants a lot of the time. Stonebinder's familiar. It's a 1-mana 1/1, so kind of already a little bit of a not great. When one or more cards are put into exile during your turn, put a counter on it. It only triggers once each turn. And it only triggers on your turn. So this combines really well with the dog that eats your homework, because you can like put counters on both of them. I think it's mostly just a build around for archetypes. Not really a card that you can play in every deck. Kind of hard to get going, so not a huge fan of this Stonebinder's Familiar. Thunderous Orator. When it attacks, it gains flying until end of turn. Nice. If you control a creature with flying. Oh. I was so excited for a second. I was like, oh, it's a 2-mana 2 Vigilance Flyer. Oh my gosh. This is a lot of text for an uncommon, but it basically boils down to a 2-mana 2/2 Vigilance that will sometimes have another ability, which is still not great. Oh my gosh. All of these are so bad. That makes me a lot less excited to draft White when you realize that all these uncommons are junky and terrible. I mean, this is the only one that I would be like, okay, first picking, I think. Sometimes you can view them in like terms of that. Like, I don't think I want to first pick any of these other cards. It's just like, yikes. Let's look at these blue cards. Divide by 0. Well, we know that's undefined. Turn target spell or permanent with mana value 1 or greater to its owner's hand. So it's a 3-mana bounce spell that can't bounce tokens, and you learn. So you can't bounce tokens, but you can still get the value of like blowing out a combat trick. And learning can be really nice attached to this sort of effect. This could be pretty good. Divide by 0. Though not being able to bounce tokens is a pretty big downside in a set that has so many tokens. Misery, Inadequacy, Failure. The common denominator is you. Jeez Louise. That's a brutal flavor text. Kind of true, though. Kind of true. Though only if you live a sad life. If you're not sad, then it's not really true. Because then it's like happiness, joy, success. The common denominator is you, and you're like, yes! But that would be divide by infinity or something, maybe. But why would you want to cast this with no if your opponent doesn't have a single target, then you aren't really worried about it. But I don't know. And you can return your own things too to protect from removal. So divide by 0 seems pretty decent to me. Kelpie Guide. Untap another target permanent you control. Nice, so you can ramp. Tap target permanent. Activate only if you control 8 or more lands. So it's like a mana ramp creature that can also untap your creatures to give them pseudo vigilance, which is nice. And it can do that at instant speed for some trickery. Hey, Jaywick. And then it also has tapping. It becomes a tapper if you get 8 lands. Getting 8 lands into play is no joke. That's a hard thing to do, especially because blue has a looter at common that you're probably going to play a copy of to get rid of extra lands. But I think this, if there's a mechanic built around getting 8 lands into play, you can probably get 8 lands into play somehow. Like you'll play the ramp card more often, maybe like the ramp card that learns, which could be pretty good. I don't know. Could be decent. This card seems really sweet to me though. It's ramp on its baseline, which is already okay. And then it can like, if you're building a ramp deck, this is like the perfect card. Pretty nice. Mentor's Guidance. I couldn't see like first picking it though, I don't think. When you cast this spell, copy it if you control a Planeswalker, Cleric, Druid, Shaman, Warlock, or Wizard. Scry 1, then draw a card. Kasmina had encouraged the twins to apply. Strixhaven would test not only their magical potential, but also their character. Kasmina's hype. What a cool creature. What a cool Planeswalker. So it's like a scry 1 draw card. So it's like a scry 1 draw card, and you can do that twice if you have enough clerics, druids, shamans, warlocks, and wizards. I forget, but I think blue has a lot of wizards. Mercurial Transformation. It's a lesson. It's a frog. For the sun's sake, I just want a crab. That's really funny. Target non-land. Oh yeah, and copying can be nice. Oh, good point, Gamma Lamb. That's a really good point. Until end of turn, target non-land permanent loses all abilities and becomes your choice of a blue frog with 1/1 or blue octopus creature with base power 4/4. It can be one or the other, but it can't be a crab. So you can either buff your own creature or shrink one of theirs for a turn. That's not a great card. The thing is with these lessons is like, I really like the token ones because it's like that's a real card. But a lot of these lessons are like very marginal effects that you might play as a sideboard card, but you're not going to take it super highly because you're almost always just going to get your token generator, I feel like. And you don't really want to, like the learn cards generally hinge around having a token generator, I think. So you can actually get a reasonable creature out of them. But yeah, Snow Day. Not Dake, Snow Day. Tap up to 2 creatures. They don't untap. Draw 2 cards, then discard a card. So that's a pretty powerful game-ending effect if you're an aggro deck or a tempo deck. I always just glance at the flavor text and then crack up. Advanced Elemental Manifestations is cancelled until all students have thawed. Oh my gosh, that is so good. The octopus is in a cage too. Oh, that's so good. Thanks, Pigpen. So you draw 2, discard a card. So that's like, it's already card even. And then you get to tap 2 things and they don't untap. So that's pretty good for aggressive decks, but as like a top end finisher, but it's not like, because it keeps them locked down for 2 turns. Solve the equation. That's just not playable. You can't, you don't want to play a 3-mana tutor in limited for only instants or sorceries. It's at sorcery speed. That's just not playable. A lot of these uncommons are kind of junky. I don't like that as much. Like, they haven't been as... I guess that might be a good thing. There's no busted uncommons, but, like, yikes. Flying Magecraft 0/2. When you cast or copy an instant, target creature you control has base power 2. So it's like a one... The joke, it's like a 1-mana 2/2 flyer if you have Magecraft every turn. But that's a lot harder to do in limited. Whoa, Grustin. Thanks for the subscription. 15 months! Jeez Louise, that's over a year. Absolutely absurd. Thanks, Grustin. I appreciate that. Wowza. Symmetry Sage is kind of like the white 1-drop that we looked at earlier. Kind of like the same problem is that you don't really want a 1-mana 0/2 and you can't reliably trigger this in limited, I feel like. You can't even like get enough copies of this to build like a consistent aggro deck around them. Like you can't get like 4 copies of it and then just try to curve out with them, kind of. Test of Talents. Counter instant or sorcery. Yikes, that's already very narrow. Oh, and then you can exile all copies of it. So if they have a really good removal spell in multiples, maybe you'd sideboard this in, but I feel like you still wouldn't want that because it's just such a narrow card. Target creature can't be blocked this turn. Well, this card's kind of scary. Wormhole Serpent. After drowning, devourings, and one highly unpleasant algae infestation, unsupervised portal use on campus was banned. Oh my gosh. Oh my gosh. They kept using the wormhole to go underwater. Are you making fun of me, Freakhorn, saying that I was able to calculate that 15 months is more than a year? I knew 15 months was over a year. That's what I said. But this card doesn't seem like that good to me. I was just thinking of the flavor text, and the reason I was silent for a second was because I was reading the chat, and I was also like just contemplating how funny it would be if you were just opening a wormhole and then just a bunch of water came out because you opened it to like, or like opened a portal and it was to this underwater lake right next to this thing. Pretty funny. Should have used Gillyweed. The Harry Potter ref, you'll love to hear it. But yeah, Wormhole Serpent, 5 mana, 3/5, kind of okay stats, and then being able to give things unblockable is nice. It reminds me kind of of Pass Wall Adept from Guilds of Ravnica, which was a pretty decent finisher, but I think a 2 mana 1/3 is probably better than a 5 mana 3/5 a lot of the time, because you just play it early and then it has an ability late, whereas just has you play it late, it has ability late. I don't know. Moving on to the black cards. Again, blues uncommons. There was nothing that really jumped out to me. It's like, oh my gosh. Kind of like Ashiok Skulker, yeah, which was not an insane card. But giving anything unblockable is nice too. Because then once you get to 5 mana, you can get to 8 mana. And then giving 2 things unblockable means you can just like start clocking them for 6 or 7 a turn. Brackish Trudge. That's a funny name. 3 mana 4/2. Okay. Enters the battlefield tapped. Not great. Return it from your graveyard to your hand. Activate only if you gained life. This card I'm actually pretty excited about. It's not great on defense, but on offense, there's a decent number of ways to gain life, it looks like, in the set. Especially because there's like those little 1/1 tokens around that like when they die, you gain a life. And 2 mana is not a ton. And a 4/2 attacks pretty hard. It attacks past a lot of things. So you can kind of just like jam in. It dies. You gain the life eventually. Bring it back to your hand. This card's pretty nice. Seems pretty powerful. If you're an aggressive deck. If you're a defensive deck, you don't want your 3-drop to come into play tapped. But even then, it could be a like, nice grindy tool as like a late game card for your defensive deck. Eye Twitch. When it dies, learn. 1 mana 1/1 flyer. So it dies into drawing a card. That's actually pretty reasonable. If you have at least like one good lesson to get. I feel like the learn cards don't stack as well in multiples as you might think, because if you have a couple good, like if you have one good lesson and you have 3 learn cards, all of a sudden you're gonna have to start getting the bad the bad lessons, and you're like, ugh. But this card's decent. It's not like a high pick or anything, I don't think. Because it's still just a pretty low impact card on its own. -X, where X is 7 minus the number of cards in that creature's controller hand. Jeez Louise. Flunk. Yikes. That's brutal. Not a huge... It's an okay card. Oh, this card does work with the Gruff. Yeah, it feels like they did balance learn decently well based on these. There hasn't been any cards where I'm like, wow, that's incredible. You can always rummage, yeah, but a 1 mana 1/1 that dies into rummaging is not really good. Flunk. So typically they're going to have 3 or 4 cards in their hand in the mid game, so it's 2 mana. It's like a Grasp of Darkness. It's easier to cast, but less reliable and more of a late game card. This card being in the format is going to make you want to hold lands in your hand against black. No idea, Voita. Yeah, Flunk seems okay. I don't know if it's a high pick. I feel like the other black removal spells are also like kind of similar. Hey, Gaelon. Go blank. Discards 2 cards, then exile all cards from that player's graveyard. That could be brutal against some decks. Also, this artwork is just trippy. But this is another discard effect. So we've seen 2 cards in black that make you want to hold extra cards in your hand. I noticed yesterday there wasn't a common Mind Rot variant. This is basically an uncommon Mind Rot. The exiling effect is not super relevant, so not going to come up super often. Mage Hunter. Opponent casts or copies an instant or sorcery spell. They lose 1 life. That could be pretty brutal. Attached to a reasonable body. Again, I don't know if it's a high pick because it's a 4-drop that doesn't have great stats and its ability is like relatively minor. Like if it dealt 3 damage to them on coming into play, that'd be pretty good. But sometimes it'll just die or has to trade. Necrotic Fumes. Exile creature control. Exile target creature plus token. This is actually a pretty reasonable lesson. I don't like the fact that you have to exile a creature you control, though. I wish it could just be sacrificed because then it could work with these things like Eye Twitch. But Eye Twitch it doesn't work with. It's like, come on, man. Can't let me make my sweet combos. But yeah, this is a reasonable lesson because it's like one of those kind of versatile ones that you'll want to be able to get if they have a particularly problematic card. But since it doesn't work with like your creatures dying and your creatures get exiled instead, it's like still pretty narrow. So it's like it could be okay. I wish it was just sack a creature because then it's like a bone shred. Bone splinters, I think. Yeah, but the pest, you don't even get the life from them dying now, which is just kind of a... It's just a weird design, in my opinion. Like, if you have a thing where it's like, if this dies, you gain a life, they're the perfect thing to sacrifice to these, like, exile your own creatures things. And it's like, it doesn't work. There was another card that exiled, I think. What was it? I don't remember what it was, but there was another card that we saw, I think, that, like, exiled your own creature. I don't remember exactly what it was. But yeah, exiling your own stuff is not great. It's. I don't think I'm going to be taking these super highly. Just because it just doesn't feel like a great effect to get. I'll probably be low on learn starting out, unless I get the token ones. I think, as I've been saying, I think the tokens are really the key to making learn a good mechanic for your deck. Plumb the Forbidden. Sacrifice one or more creatures. When you do copy the spell for each creature sacked this way, you draw a card and you lose 1 life. Now this could be leading to some sweet Magecraft turns. Again, it's really cool how they've designed these cards because none of them are just like, wow, that's broken. It's more so like I'm thinking like, oh, if I have a couple of those little 1/1s lying around, I can sacrifice them and I can copy them and I can trigger my Magecraft guy and get a couple of things going from the Magecraft and draw a few cards. I'm so glad you're enjoying it, M39. But yeah, Plumb the Forbidden. Again, I don't think it's a super high pick. It's more of a synergy card, but that's kind of sweet in its own way. Put a counter on target creature, so 5 mana, 3/3. When a creature you control with a counter on it attacks, each opponent loses a life and you gain a life. And also the pests, when they die, they offset the life gain you lose. And this one is an instant speed, so you can actually do this in response to a removal effect, unlike the sorcery speed one. So it's like a 5 mana 3/3 that can drain them for counters. This one's really synergistic. You're not going to want to play it unless you have a lot of synergy with this, because a 5 mana 3/3 is really small. But if you're draining them and you have like a couple flyers with counters on them, that could be really scary. Umbral Juke. They sack a creature or planeswalker, create a 2/1 with flying. This is a really good card. I like Umbral Juke a lot. Because Umbral Juke is like a 3 mana 2/1 flyer with flash, which is essentially the second mode, is actually a reasonable card. And making them sack a creature or planeswalker has the potential to be really good and also the potential to suck. And so when it's going to suck, you can just make a 2/1 flyer, which is reasonable. I like that. The sport of Mage Tower was conceived as a playful testing ground for young spellcasters. Who names a sport Mage Tower? That feels a little bit awkward. But yeah, black doesn't have any like bomb rare uncommons. There's no like premium removal spell. Like this one's okay. Academic Dispute. I'll show you original research, you hack. Don't even need to read the card. It's already a winner in my book. It's just exactly what I thought the flavor text would be of Academic Dispute. Target creature blocks this turn available. You may have it gain reach until end of turn. That's really funny. It's so funny. It can gain. You can give a creature reach so that it has to block your big flyer. Importantly, you don't get to choose what it blocks, so you won't be able to like alpha strike and force them to block your big creature. It just has to block, and you get to learn, so it kind of replaces itself. I don't love the card, but it's kind of a cute design. Forcing something to block has a lot of things that can go wrong with it. Like, they can just blow you out with a pump spell, or maybe they wanted to block anyway. Yeah, not great. Ardent Dust Speaker. Attacks, you may put an instant sorcery from your graveyard on the bottom of your library. If you exile the top 2 cards of your library, you may play those cards this turn. Oh my gosh, you can give your own creature reach. That's hilarious. I was just thinking you'd give it to your opponent's creature. Instant speed reach combat trick. Maybe the Academic Dispute gets better if you have some Magecraft stuff too. All these cheap instants could get a little bit of a bump from that. Dust Speaker seems actually good. Like, this is the type of card that I want to build around. You get to, if you just have an instant or sorcery in your graveyard by turn 5 when you've played this card, you attack, then you get to like draw 2 cards almost, because by turn 5 you can cast most of the things, and you can play them, so you can even play lands off of it. Ardent Dust Speaker is like the uncommon that I'm most excited to play out of all of the uncommons I've looked at so far, I think. Like, this card's kind of in competition with it, but like most of these cards are like kind of medium, but this card actually seems like a nice little game plan. It is a 5-drop and it's a 3/4, so it's not like the greatest on defense, and it needs to be able to attack. So if there's a lot of like 4/2s running around, it gets a lot worse, but still, you get a lot of card advantage out of this sort of thing. 8 mana, deal 5 to any target and 3 to any other target. Add 3 mana. That's wild. That's pretty sweet. I think that could be really good. 8 mana is a big ask, but if you're building like a ramp deck, I guess green-blue is the color of ramp, and you'd often want to like splash this sort of card maybe in green-blue. Sorry, that was a hiccup that made it sound like I was choking or something. Never fear, I'm okay. I'm okay. I'm okay. Whew. But yeah, Explosive Welcome seems like it could do some real cool things. It definitely feels like it'd be annoying because it's going to kill 2 reasonable cards, and the 3 mana, I don't know, might be okay. Red-blue definitely could fit this deck, and then it seems like a card you'll splash in blue-green a decent amount probably. Grinning Ignis. Return to its owner's hand, add 3 mana, activate only as a sorcery. Yeah, the common cost reducer makes this a lot better too. Good point, good point. Cost reduction is good on that. Red-blue makes like 1 treasure. There was 1 card we saw yesterday that made it 1 treasure, so I don't think it's really like red-blue makes treasures, if that's a factor. Yeah, Sundering Stroke was pretty good, and that one was much harder to get this sort of effect a lot of the time, but it does cost 1 more mana, which is a big deal. Grinning Ignis doesn't seem great to me. I don't think you're going to really be ramped. Oh, actually, that would be kind of sweet if you're ramping into it. You play Grinning Ignis, and then on turn 6, you bounce it to your hand, play Explosive Welcome, use the 3 mana to recast the Ignis. I feel like Grinning Ignis could be a build-around card if you have some really expensive instants or sorceries, but generally it's not going to be great because the 3 mana 2/2 is not good, but kind of a sweet design regardless. Hall Monitor. Wow, that's a kind of great, really good name for it. I love it because it's like a monitor is a type of lizard, and then Hall Monitor. Yikes. 1 mana 1/1. Target creature can't block this turn. So it removes blockers. It can attack in for a couple damage early, maybe. Doesn't seem that great to me, but it has some applications. I've kind of been saying that about a lot of the cards. Like, they all seem kind of medium to me, and then they'll be like good in like one particular deck. So it seems like one of those formats where you really have to make sure that you get into the right color combination. Because if you just like are in the wrong school, the wrong guild, the wrong school, whatever the situation is, if you are in that situation, you end up in a real bad bad spot, because you'll just have a collection of like mediocre cards with no synergy between them if you just end up in a place where you don't have like, yeah, I don't know. Thanks, Kevin. Ignis Inspiration. I've been told it's quite good by chat. Let's see. Deal 3 damage to any target and learn. That is quite good. It's like a deal 3 and draw card, but it is sorcery speed, so keep that in mind, but seems pretty good. I like it. Any target too, so you can hit players, planeswalkers, pretty great. Ignis Inspiration is probably is the best card that we've seen on this entire uncommons list. Because it's just like straight value, it's a removal spell, it's pretty efficient on its own, and then it draws you a card. Mascot Interception. But still, even that's not like overwhelmingly broken or anything. Mascot Interception. The most popular sport on campus, Mage Tower. Costs 3 less for targets a creature token. Gain control of it. It gains +2/+0 and gains haste. So if there is some sacrifice stuff, then you can maybe get it with the Mascot Interception, but it doesn't look like there's really sacrifice widely supported. So, not as good. In targeting a creature token, oftentimes the tokens are small-ish, but there are some big ones like 4/4s in red-blue, and there's like the big shard token things in blue-green. Start from scratch. Deals 1 damage to any target. Destroy target artifact. That doesn't seem great to me. It is a lesson, though, which makes it a little bit better because you can only get it when it's actually good. So that actually does bump up its effectiveness, because when you want to destroy an artifact, you really want to destroy an artifact. And sometimes 1 damage can take out a really key threat or even finish off the opponent. So the fact that this is a lesson, you'd never main deck this card, but it's like gives you access to it in the sideboard, which is nice. Stormkiln Artist. The art on this is pretty neat. It reminds me of the cog worker in Hearthstone. Stormkiln Artist gets +1/+0 for each artifact you control. When you cast a copy in instant or sorcerer, create a treasure. So this Magecraft ability is quite good. The fact that this can grow to be like a 5/2 doesn't really matter as much because it'll still trade with their 2-drop. But if you're using the treasures to cast your big spells, like the Explosive Welcome, which, by the way, in my mind, I read this and it was a rare. I don't know why, but I was like, oh, this is a rare. Even though I know that I'm looking only at uncommons. Yeah. Kind of wild. This card could do some really good work. It's only 4 mana, so then you can start building up to it by casting your like cantrips and things like that. Could be a pretty good card. And like it's going to be like a 3/2 or 4/2 if you've cast a couple instants or sorceries. Could be cool. Red seemed okay. Red's had a decent removal spell, really nice finisher, pretty good card advantage card. Red seemed like I had the best uncommons of the bunch so far, I think. Bookworm. 8 mana, 7/7. So really expensive. Trample. Enters battlefield, you gain 3 life and draw a card. You can put it from your graveyard into your library 3rd from the top. That's pretty cool. So it can just keep coming back. If you can get to 8 mana, you can just like cycle this over and over and over. Pretty nice. And there's not really enchantment removal to keep this down. I kind of like Bookworm. It is really expensive though. So it's like hard to imagine first picking an 8 mana card, because getting up to 8 mana is a big ask. But if you have some ramp, that 3 mana ramp spell in green is looking a lot better the more I see how many expensive cards there are. But generally when you're ramping, it's much easier to find like a clunky big common 6-drop, and then you just prioritize the good ramp and stuff like that. Like I'd rather have good ramp than a good finisher, because once you cast, like the difference between casting this and the like common card that makes you a 6/6 a token that's as big as your land. So let's just say you have 8. So it's either you make a big 7/7 or you make an 8/8. They're both going to be big creatures. They're both going to end the game a lot of the time. Sure, this one's resilient, gains you some life, draws a card, but like you'd rather prioritize the ramp first than this card. So like I don't see myself like first picking this sort of card a lot of the time, though. Maybe ramp is way better than it has been in the past. Getting to 8 mana is a big ask, though. Trample is nice for sure. On your 7/7. A lesson, destroy an artifact or enchantment. If its mana value is 2 or less, create a 1/1 black and green pest creature token. Nice. This is another really good lesson. I like it because it gives you the flexibility. This is what you want your lessons to be, a pretty flexibility type card. So you can get this when it's good, and then it can do some work. But enchantments don't seem to be a theme this set, so I think someone said in the chat earlier that there's only 4 enchantments in the set, so mostly killing artifacts, and we haven't seen a ton of those either. Devouring Tendrils. Target creature controls deals damage equal to its power to target creature or planeswalker you don't control. When this permanent you don't control dies, you gain 2 life. That could be, it's pretty decent. It's like a rabid bite, but it gains you 2 life to trigger some things, which I like. Okay. Emergent Sequence. I did put this on my schedule. Perfect. Sorry about that. Oh my gosh. Honor Troll. I'm skipping this for now. First in his clan to attend Strixhaven, and now first in his class. Wow, that's hilarious. I don't know why he looks so sophisticated. I guess because he's first in his class. If you would gain life, you gain that much life plus 1 instead. All attached to a 3 mana 2/3 vigilance. Gets +2/+1 as long as you have 25 or more life. I think the first ability is kind of nice. Tax on an extra life. Imagine a 3 mana 2/3 that gained you 3 life. That'd be pretty good. And if this can be built around, it can do that. But without that, it's not really that good. Wait, Bookworm? This is called Bookworm? Oh my gosh. I didn't even recognize that name as... Oh my gosh, that's funny. It takes devouring a book in one sitting to a frightening extreme. That's brutal. Emergent sequence. Search for basic land card. Put on a battlefield tap. That's a good thing. It becomes a 0/0 green and blue fractal creature that's still a land. And then it's a 2/2 a lot of the time. That's going to be pretty neat. I think it's a very cool design. Pests gain 2 is nice, yeah. Fortifying Drought. You gain 2 life. Target creature gets +X/+X. X is the amount of life. So it's a +2/+2. Normally white gets the +2/+2 gain 2. But this can be even better than that in some decks. So I think this is a good card. I really liked this. This card is literally the same as a white card from Rivals of Ixalan, but it has the potential to be better. Where in Rivals of Ixalan, it was like +2/+2 gain 2. And I like that card more than most people. But yeah, nice. Again, these cards are not like wildly broken or anything. Moment of Triumph, good call, pseudonym. That was what it was called. Moment of Craving was the black one that did -2/-2. Karok Wrangler. 5 mana 3/3. When you cast your copy, put a counter on target creature. That's really good. Being able to spread around counters at instant speed is really dangerous. This card's a really good uncommon. This might be the new best uncommon that we've seen. Like, I instantly saw that card and I was like, oh, that sounds completely unreal. Imagine, like, you just throw counters around. Yeah, this seems real good to me. Real good. Master Symmetrist. Creature you control with power equal to its toughness attacks, it gains trample. So it's a 4 mana 4/4 reach with trample, essentially. Which is already great. This card's also really good. 4 mana 4/4 reach trample that can give your other creatures trample. Nice. Even as a 5 mana 3/3, I think this is still good. There's a decent number of cheap things you want to be casting your spells. And it does definitely suffer. It takes some work, so it's hard to like build around it, but it seems pretty good to me. And Symmetrist is just good in any deck. 4 mana 4/4 trample is just good stats. She showed up to class on a what? Overgrown Arch. You gain 1 life, and you can sacrifice it to learn. That's pretty nice. I think this card's deceptively good, too. Because a 2 mana 0/4 that just gains you, like, 8 life over the course of the game, or 5 life, because it's going to be sticking around, then you can eventually sacrifice it to rummage, or draw a reasonable card if you need it. I like this card a lot, too. Arch is deceptively powerful. I like these 2 cards, but this is a bit expensive. Whoever, Usak pointed out a good point. Being a 5 mana 3/3 is a bit of a downside, but I feel like this can take over the game. Because just imagine you have this in play. Like, sure, you have to untap with it, but then, like, every time you attack your opponent, like, how do they decide how to block? You can just put a counter anywhere you want at instant speed, and they don't know if you're going to be able to do that, or maybe put 2 counters. And if you do have instants, and if you build around it, you can just, like, wreck them. Yeah, this is really good with a lot of the synergies in the set, too. Oh my gosh. Tondo lost his very first duel and has spent his entire life trying to get even. That's such good flavor text. Oh my gosh, that's incredible. The flavor text in this set is probably the best that I've ever seen. I don't know. I just love it. It's completely incredible. Okay, so those are the green cards. Maybe we should pick best uncommon for each color, maybe. I don't know. Let's see. I like Professor of Symbology probably is number 1 there. In blue. Geez, blues are not as good. Snow Day's decent, and Kelpie Guide is decent. And Mentor's Guidance is decent. Probably Kelpie Guide's the best, though. Just a cheap spell. Divide by 0 could also be pretty solid. Yeah, Divide by 0 is probably the best. Bounce spell that draws you a card is always pretty reasonable. In black... I like the Umbral Juke. I also like Brackish Trudge. Flunk is decent. But yeah, probably Umbral Juke. The fact that Go Blank is in the set makes... I guess there's also, like, people trying to ramp to 8 mana, so they're not going to be able to hold up their mana as much sometimes. But I like... There's a decent number of good black cards. In red, I like the Igneous Inspiration. I also like Explosive Welcome and Dust Speakers. I guess I didn't end up picking a best uncommon for the color, but... Yeah, green. Emergent Sequence is pretty good. Karok, Wrangler, Symmetrist, and Arch. So green has some pretty good ones, too. Whites are just across the board pretty bad. And blues are, like, not anything special either, I don't think. Okay, we're moving on to some gold cards. Gold! What was that was from? Oh, it's Banana. Ether Helix. Turn target permanent to its owner's hand. Return target permanent card from your graveyard to your hand. So it's a 5 mana. Actually get a good reasonable card from your graveyard and bounce a permanent. And it can bounce tokens. That's pretty good, but it is sorcery speed, which makes it a decent amount worse. That's an okay card. Closing statement. It looks like the power level has been pretty flat so far, which I like. Unless the learn cards all just end up being absurd, but I don't think that's going to be the case, or currently I don't. Closing statement. Cost 2 less to cast during your end step. Needlessly confusing, okay. Destroy target creature or planeswalker you don't control, put a counter on up to 1 target creature you could control. So it's a 3 mana kill spell that puts a counter on a creature you control, but you have to cast it on your end step. Oh, it makes sense because it's closing statement and it's in conclusion. That's hilarious. Oh my gosh. The design is so on point. Oh my gosh, that's incredible. Yeah. Oh my gosh. Yeah, I realized it right as Chad also pointed it out. That's so nice. Oh my goodness. In conclusion. Oh, that's so good. That's a really good card. This is one of the best cards I've seen. It's murder, but you get a counter because like you just can cast on your end step. That's okay. And really good. 3 mana to kill something. Relatively light on like one white and 1 black, so not that hard on the mana costs. And you can always just cast it for 5. That seems really good. Really good. I feel like green-black is often going to want to splash this effect because it's not that hard to flash. And yeah, this card's really good. I like in closing statement a lot. Creative Outburst. 7 mana. Okay. 5 damage to any target. Look at the top 5. Put one of them into your hand and the rest on the bottom. And you can discard it to create a treasure. Also a great card. I think the cost reduction common is going to be really key for the Izzet decks. Or the Prismari decks as they are now known. This seems pretty reasonable. There's a lot of expensive instants and sorceries in red-blue. So maybe the blue uncommon that counters them could be pretty decent. Demogoth Woe Eater. Upkeep, sack a creature. Yikes. Oh, it's a 4 mana 7/6. With a random hybrid mana thrown in there. When you sacrifice it, each opponent discards a card, you draw a card, and you gain 2 life. So it's like a 4 mana, and then if you have a creature that you want to sacrifice, you can get an attack in. It can like blank their attacks for a turn, and then you essentially net a card because they discard a card and you draw a card. Pretty reasonable. So it's like 4 mana, they can't attack you for a turn. Then you get to either keep it in play or you get some card advantage. I like it. Damogoth Woe Eater seems solid to me. Deadly Brew. Each player sacks a creature. If you sack a permanent, you may return another permanent card from your graveyard to your hand. That seems good too, because you get your card back. You get to upgrade your guy and you get rid of one of their guys. But if they have tokens, it's pretty bad. So maybe it's not like super effective. Decisive Denial. I've heard enough. Target you control fights target creature you don't control. So there's multiple fight spells. There's like 3 fight spells in this set. So keep that in mind. The bounce spell in blue gets a lot better if there's 3 fight spells. Or counter target non-creature spell unless its controller pays 3. Instant speed too. I like this card. This is nice. This is a good modality to have. You can like counter their removal spell or you can just fight one of their creatures on their end step. Things like that. Pretty nice. You're paying for my wisdom. You'll get no better deal. That's epic. Kind of yikes, though. Sketchy. Oh, your pain. Oh, right. So you give up pain and they give you wisdom. Yikes. Dinah Soul Stepper. Steeper. Soul Steeper. Like she's brewing a cup of tea. That's hilarious. She's just brewing. Whenever you gain life, each opponent loses 1 life. Wow, this is really good with that little wall. Sack another creature, it gets +X+O, where X is a sacrifice creature's power. That's also pretty nice. Just a good ability to have. Sacrifice outlets are generally pretty decent and limited. This one doesn't have as big of an impact, but the passive ability could be really good. Really scary and limited. Expressive Iteration. Top 3. 1 in your hand, 1 on the bottom, and exile one of them. I can play the exiled card this turn. That can be like a cantrip if you have enough cheap cards, though I don't know how well that works in red-blue. I guess you can put the really good... Wow, this is much better. Because you look at the top 3, you put like the land in exile, and then you can play the land, and you just get to draw like your expensive spell. This card seems really good to me. I like Expressive Iteration. 2 mana, destroy target artifact, enchantment, or planeswalker. Doesn't seem great to me in this set because there's not a ton of enchantments and not a ton of artifacts. Draw a card for each different power among creatures you control. Golden ratio. Love it. When I look around, I see a world defined by patterns that still manages to defy them. Wow. This is a great card overall. Really cool. So it's a 3 mana. Oftentimes going to be a draw 2 or draw 3. I like it. Tough to use though, and you can't use it with an empty hand, so it's probably like very like tough to get like find a slot for it in your deck. But it's a cool design, and it's high upside. But if you have like 3 creatures in play, you're probably already doing decently, and like having different power on all of them's tough. It's a big ask. Humiliate. Ooh, for some reason I just went out of it for a second. I was like, wait, whoa. Maybe I didn't eat enough today. What did I have? Yikes. Thinking about, I only had a PB&J sandwich. It was good though. And there was whole grain bread. I'm kind of out of it though. Like just zoning out sometimes. Okay. Ooh, focus, Nikolai. Humiliate. Reveals their hand, you choose an online card from it, they discard it, put a counter on target creature you control. So it's a discard effect, but you actually get to have some onboard presence, which is nice. I like that. Wasn't there a card that did this exact same thing in Ravnica that was called, don't tell me, it was called, oh, I can see the art in my head. No, what was it called? Dang it, I can't remember. It's like Expose or something. It's an Orzhov card too. I can't remember what it's called. Killian, Ink Duelist. 2 mana, 2/2, lifelink menace. I like it. Spells you cast at target a creature cost 2 less to cast. Nice. This card's real good. Very solid across the board. No, not Thought Erasure. There's an Orzhov version from original Ravnica. I think it's original Ravnica. Yeah. Lorehold Apprentice. Okay, we're getting towards the end here. Aw, what's that? No comeback. Jeez Louise. Yikes. Lorehold Apprentice. Cast or copy an instant or sorcery until end of turn. Spirit creatures. Deals 1 damage to each opponent. Castigate. There we go, pseudonym. Boom. Thank you. Thank you. That was the name of the card I was thinking of. Yeah, the card from Africa. I knew what you meant. I guess it's good to explain it for everyone else. Lorehold Apprentice. Yeah, non-land card. Yeah, pretty much. So if you have a lot of spirits, then the spirits can ping. I think the spirits aren't flyers in this set, so that could actually be pretty nice for reach. But again, it's just a 2 mana 2/2 that you have to build around. This is one of the most interesting sets I've ever looked at the cards for, I feel like. Because first of all, there's a ton of gold cards. And then second of all, these uncommons don't feel like overly powerful. Oh, you Googled it? Still nice to know. Lorehold Excavation. Getting for instant mill a card. If a land was milled, you gain 1 life. Otherwise, it deals 1 damage to each opponent. So kind of low impact. Exile a creature card from your graveyard to create a tapped 3/2 red and white spirit creature token. So it's a very grindy card. And also exiles cards from your graveyard. So a lot of the other cards we looked at yesterday were exiling instants from your graveyard, I think. Or instants or sorceries. And this one can exile creatures. If you have 4 spirits. Yeah, but the spirits aren't like a bunch of 1/1 tokens running around. It's like all 3/2. So they're kind of cost cards to get them. And you have to cast a Magecraft thing to get it. So it's not as good. It's just kind of tough to use. This is a nice grindy card, but I don't know how good it is. 5 mana to make, like 7 mana to make your first 3/2 after you've milled for a while. It is tough. You gain some life, deal some damage, but it feels very grindy and slow. There are a couple of cheap white spirit ones. The 3 mana 2/1 that can get a planes from your deck seems like a little bit better. Especially with some of the synergies we've been seeing. Clarion Spirit for standard. Oh, that's kind of cute. Maelstrom Muse. So 4 mana, 2/4, flyer. 4 mana, 2/4 flyer is already kind of reasonable. Attacks the next instant or sorcery spell you cast cost X less, where X is its power as this ability resolves. That's really nice. So it's like a costs 2 less. and then you can use it to cast your big instance. I like this card a lot. Seems like it's going to be pretty useful. There's a lot of expensive ones you're going to want to play. So if you have the Maelstrom Muse and the cost cheapener, your deck is going to be a lot better. Okay, we're slowly getting towards the end. Mortality Spear, destroy an online permanent. Costs 2 less if you gain life. There's some good ways to gain life. This card's just excellent. Not much more to say. This is just a fantastic card. Practical Research. Draw 4 cards, then discard 2 unless you discard an instant or sorcery. That's really good too. Draw 4, discard 2 is pretty reasonable. And draw 4, discard 1 seems not that unlikely. Especially because there's ways to get things back or like use your graveyard in some way. Yeah. I like Practical Research. Prismari Apprentice. When you cast or copy, it can't be blocked. If the spell has mana value 5 or greater, put a counter on it. Nice. So 2 mana 2/2. That's hard to block and can get bigger. Nice. Quandrix Apprentice. Another 2 mana 2/2. When you cast or copy, look at the top 3 cards. You may reveal a land and put that card in your hand. Nice. It draws you a card a decent amount of the time. This seems really good to me, especially because they care about getting 8 lands in play, so lands 6, 7, and 8 are pretty relevant. Oh yeah, Quintorius. Don't worry, I looked at him yesterday, so it's not as wildly special to see him here, but I'm pretty excited still. Gotta love Quintorius. The Field Historian. Pulling a little Hamlet routine here. Every life has a story to tell, and I won't let them be forgotten. Quandrix Apprentice seems really good. Because top 3 cards to find a land is oftentimes going to hit. And when you care about getting to land 8, it seems very nice. So I like the Apprentice a lot. This is one of those cards that I could see first picking very easily. And because like when every instant and sorceries you have also draws you a land, getting to the 8 lands is not that hard. Or not as hard. Quandrix Cultivator. Enters the battlefield, search for a basic forest or island card, put it onto the battlefield, and shuffle. That's a really good card too. It's like a nice little 4 mana 3/4 that draws a card. And it ramps you. Feels good. Quintorius. You love to see it. Quintorius is the channel mascot already, basically. Personal fan favorite, as they say. So it buffs your spirits, which is cool, because there's a decent number of spirits. And when one or more cards leave, so any type of card, so that includes like creatures leaving from like that one exile card we saw in red-white, or instants leaving from when the dog eats them, you get a 3/2 red and white spirit creature token. Pretty great. And that they're 4/2s because of Quintorius. This is going to be a really cool card to build around. Reconstruct History. Up to 1 artifact card, 1 enchantment card, 1 target instant. Artifact, enchantment, instant, sorcery, and planeswalker from your graveyard to your hand. What? So you can get back like 3 cards and get 3 spirits? Oh no, it's 1 or more. So you only get 1 spirit. That still seems really good to me. This is a very grindy card, and it really makes me want to draft this Boros Control deck. It seems really neat. Return Past Caller. Enter the battlefield, return target in spirit, instant, or sorcery card from your graveyard to your hand. They're giving red-white a lot of grindy tools in this set, and I'm really digging it. Nice. And it's a 4/2 flyer for 6. 6 mana 4/2 flyer that draws you a card and triggers your stuff is nice. Rip Apart. 3 damage target creature, planeswalker. Sign me up, I'm in. Great card already, and it can destroy artifacts or enchantments. Nice. Rutha, Mercurial Artist. Return Rutha to his owner's hand. Copy target instant or sorcery spell you control. You may choose new targets for the copy. I'm just like, does not compute. 3 mana 1/4. Returns to his hand. Copy an instant sorcery you control. That's pretty neat, actually. Pretty nice way to copy your spells. Double trigger your Magecraft. 3 mana 1/4 is decent. I like it. Shadewing Laureate. 3 mana 2/2 flyer. A creature you control with flying dies, you get a counter on any creature you like. That could go well with those Inklings. Oh, look, they have the Inklings around them. Would you prefer I destroy you using prose or verse? That's hilarious. Silverquill Apprentice. 2 mana 2/2 Magecraft. When you cast or copy an instant or sorcery, target creature gets +1/+0. I like this ability too because you can like buff up whatever you need to like win a combat. Yeah, the self-mill enchantment works pretty well with a lot of these uncommons and stuff. That is true. This card's pretty nice too. I like it. 10 of the Pests. As initial cost, sacrifice a creature. Create X pests. When this dies, you gain life for X of the creature's power. So you can sacrifice your big creatures to get like a bunch of 1/1s. It's mostly just removal insurance, because I feel like you'd rather just have a normal sized creature than spend a card to get a bunch of 1/1s. Not a big fan of this one. Witherbloom Apprentice. Whenever you cast a copy of an instant, so they all have Magecraft, and they're all 2 mana 2/2s. Each opponent loses life and you gain life. That's just a pretty reasonable card. Triggers life gain stuff, helps kill your opponent. Nice. Zimone. I looked at this card yesterday too. Zimone seems super cool. Like you can either draw a card, draw a couple cards, or ramp if you have extra lands. Seems pretty reasonable. Like I like the fact that you can either use it to ramp you up, or you can just use it as its draw ability. You're generally not going to be using this in combat anyway. And if you ever start drawing 2 cards with it, the game just ends. Reflective Golem. Ooh, the last few cards, the last colorless ones. 3 mana 2/3. You may pay 2 and you can copy that spell. Oh, you can't use it to copy fight spells, unfortunately. So what can you target with it? You can target, if you have a bounce spell, so you're protecting your golem from removal, you can use that and copy that. If you have a combat trick, you can use it to copy multiple things. It's a little bit tough to use, so I don't think it's that good, even though it is colorless. Spell Satchel. When you cast or copy an instant or sorcery, put a book counter. Okay. Remove a book counter to add mana, so it can be like a mana ramper. And you remove 3 from it to draw a card. So if you have a lot of instants and sorceries, this can do some stuff. But generally, this isn't going to be super playable, I don't think. Though, yeah. It's just so hard to get. Like, adding mana is not that useful. I mean, it's useful, but it's like, if you top deck this, it's so miserable that I don't think it's worth the cost. Like, you play it on turn 2, you still get beaten down. So there's a lot of stuff that has to go right for it to do work. Not a huge fan. Team Pennant. So there's an equipment. It's common. And it gives your creatures vigilance and trample, and it's easier to equip to your tokens. So it works really well with the like shard tokens, the big 4/4s, the 3/2s. Choosing a college based on Mage Tower results is discouraged but not unheard of. That's kind of funny. I don't love the card. It's hard to equip, and there's not that many tokens running around, I don't think. Vigilance and Trample are abilities that are kind of underrated a lot of the time, but putting those onto a creature can be nice. Daemogoth Titan. Sure, we'll check it out. Okay, so it's a 4 mana 11/10. When it attacks or blocks, sack a creature. And that's a combo with Tend the Pests. So you make 11 creatures. But that's not that. I mean, that's kind of brutal, I guess. But like they just have a couple 2/2s in play. It's hard to get through that. I guess you hit them for like 9 and then 8, but I don't know. I feel like the uncommon being good because there's a rare is like not as good. Zephyr Boots. Equipped creature has flying. When it deals combat damage to a player, draw a card, then discard a card, and it's equipped too. That's tough to use. It doesn't buff the creature at all. It's kind of expensive to use. The equip ability, not as big of a fan. It's like Raven Wings, but no +1/+0. Looting is nice, though. But it feels like you're going to have a lot of use for lands because there's expensive instants and sorceries in red-blue. And blue-green just cares about getting to 8 mana, so looting gets a little bit worse in this sort of set. Access Tunnel. You can give a creature with power 3 or less unblockable. You're not going to want to play this over just a normal land that can cast your spells more easily, I feel like, most of the time. Yeah, so that's all the uncommons. Definitely looks like a lot of the power is in the gold color combination ones, which makes sense because they're trying to encourage you playing the gold color combinations. But the monocolored ones were just very flat power level. And then there's a couple of really good ones, like these red-white ones. Pretty much all these are pretty good, I feel like. There's some just good stuff across. The blue-green has some really good like mana-using ones. Overall, pretty cool stuff. This is just my first time reading the cards, so if it feels like I'm not doing a ton of analysis, that's because I'm still absorbing what the cards actually do. This is my first time reading pretty much every single one of these cards, except for Quintorius, because I looked at him yesterday, and the also the Simic one. Wild stuff. Lots of cool cards to explore. I'm really excited for this set. It feels like the uncommons are generally flat on power level. The white ones really kind of are a letdown, which is a bit of a bummer. But yeah, there's a lot of cool cards here to explore. Yeah, the Orzhov uncommons did not seem very good. Orzhov so far, I mean, black, which is black-white for those that are less. I mean, the Orzhov has some pretty good gold uncommons, but the individual commons were not as spectacular. I don't know. There's some pretty decent black ones. The white ones were just kind of a yikes. But yeah, some pretty cool cards here to explore. I'm excited to try them out. And yeah, that's all of the uncommons in the set. I've now covered the commons and uncommons. If you were watching this on YouTube and you made it all the way to the end of the video, in the comment section down below, leave a hashtag and then your favorite card that we looked at in the video. Mine would be hashtag Quintorius because I just love this card. The design is great. I like Quandrix Apprentice. I think that card's really good. I also think that Zimone, I don't know why, but I just vibe with the scientist. Like, it just kind of reminds me of doing lab work. I don't know. So I like those 3 cards. Those are some of my favorites, just from flavor and card design. I think blue-green is going to be really fun to draft, and red-white is going to be really fun to draft. I mean, they're all going to be fun to draft, but I think those are the ones that I'm most excited to draft. Blue-red also looks awesome. There's a lot of cool stuff in blue-red. Honestly, all the colors are going to be pretty fun, obviously. Like, when you're drafting a new set, it's always exciting. But yeah, remember to leave that comment down below. Hit that thumbs up button. It does help me out and helps the video get seen by more people. You can subscribe to the channel to get notified when I post more content, including more Strixhaven stuff. Click that bell so you get notified when I post future videos. You can also check out the Patreon if you would like to support my content and also gain access to my card-by-card grade spreadsheet for Strixhaven. So this is like my first time reading the cards, but I'm going to be going through and grading them all and putting that into the spreadsheet. So if you want to gain access to that, consider becoming a patron, supporting my content, and getting access to some bonus stuff at the same time. If you want to talk about all things Strixhaven, you can come to the Twitch stream, twitch.tv/NicolaiBolas, and also join the free NicolaiBolas Discord server, which is linked in the description and pinned comment, as well as my link to my stream. And it is free to join the Discord, and there's a bunch of people there that talk about the cards, and people like draft together. It's a really fun like little vibe in the Discord. Also, you can read my articles linked in the description and pinned comment, and all of that good stuff. If you would like to know when I'm posting videos and you don't use any of those things, I do post when I post to the Discord when I post videos. I try to post to YouTube when I post new videos. Obviously, they get posted to YouTube, but I post to the community tab. And then I also post to the NicolaiBolas Twitter whenever I post a new video. So if you use Twitter and don't use Discord and you want extra notifications when I post videos, you can go check that out as well. That's just a fun little bonus thing. But yeah, that's going to do it for this video. It was really fun looking at the cards. A lot more complexity than the commons. That's probably why my mind feels a little bit like out of it at times, because it's just so much text to read when it's uncommons, but a lot of fun looking at them regardless. And I will talk to you folks in my next video. I hope you enjoyed. I'm really looking forward to Strixhaven, and I hope you are looking forward to it as well. I'll talk to you folks next time.